Today, we're looking at a pink ink by Monteverde Rose Pink. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps in the description down below, so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here, I do fountain pen ink reviews every single day, so I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then inked up this Pilot Metropolitan with a 1.0 stub. I wrote with it for a day and then used it to take the notes for this video. In order to have some standardization in my writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. And apparently, I am just slamming pens down over here. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine, which has no bleeding, no ghosting, because it's such a light ink. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some very nice shading throughout. I'm hoping this all comes through well on camera. We're going to see during editing. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. Still a very nice shading, 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. Very nice shading, still just like the extra fine with 7 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both do show some good color variation, and we do get it in the writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting, which should tell you how light an ink this is. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, a peppering of shading. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, still some very nice shading throughout with 7 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, still very nice shading, 10 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show good color variation. We are getting it in the writing. I'm hoping it comes through on camera. Rhodia with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, peppering of shading. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice peppering of shading with 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, still a peppering of shading and 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show good color variation, and we are getting that in the writing. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. Put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. Now I don't know what's going on the left side that there looks like there's a little bit of a purple, and that's weird because I don't remember that being in this ink, but it's there. This otherwise is a straightforward pink that's really pushing away from water and straight up. And I say weird because when we get to this next chromatography where I let it dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water, there's no sign of anything other than the pink, which makes me think that perhaps there was a something left in that pen that the ink picked up on its way out. But other than that purple spot, which might be a mistake of mine, these two chromatographies look the same, except for the D that I put on the second filter paper. I expect no real resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use this in a note-taking situation because for one, it's a very light ink in the first place, but then it gets washed out when you put the highlighter on it. That's not surprising because water is completely removing it from the paper like it did my pen. Pen flesh, which you're not going to need, also completely removes it from the paper, as does 1/3 bleach solution. I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I've linked that video and put that in here for you. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Monteverde's Rose Pink has a viscosity of 1.56, making this a very wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples. And for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Monteverde's Rose Pink has an average dry time of 7 seconds, making this a very fast drying ink, along with being very wet. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Rose Pink, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I wanted a nice blue, and I chose Robert Oster's Blue Lagoon. The second writing sample is done on Apica CD, Leuchtturm 1917, and 20-pound copy paper. Here we're looking at Apica CD notebooks. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have some nice shading throughout it. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. A very nice peppering of shading, 4 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. That same very nice peppering of shading and 6 seconds to dry. I realize, look at how light this is. I'm still just praying it comes through on camera. The scrubby for both show good color variation, and we got that in the writing. Leuchtturm 1917 paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have some nice shading going on, which is nice with a little more absorbent paper like this. Extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, very nice shading, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, very nice shading throughout the writing, 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some color variation, and we do get it in the writing. And last up is 20-pound copy paper. This is the cheap stuff. So we do get some bleeding in, not all the way through, didn't touch the page underneath. We do get a little bit of ghosting, but honestly, look at that. That's actually not too bad for 20-pound copy paper. The medium at the top has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Very nice. Extra fine is the same tone as the medium, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Very nice. And 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, and we didn't get it in the writing, and that is all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Monteverde Rose Pink? The tone is clear on the page, but I do find that it is too light to comfortably read for an entire page of writing. That means that it's a great complement ink to use. It is readable, but a whole page just causes a little bit of eye strain. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? Personally, I would avoid dry pens because I find the tone to be just too light there. I would go with a very wet medium or fine pen to put enough down to keep it dark where I can read it. But not always easily, but it is the best that we can get here. If you've made it this far and you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I'm going to remind you to subscribe. Thanks for watching.